it's something like this is a moment, but then what kind of moment is it like? And you could say add 50 years to this photo, it's a completely different story, and then that would make me feel something, But as it is here, no, it doesn't.
All right.
And then you can come with all kinds of reasons why it doesn't. And I hope that I don't get too many enemies out of this.
Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel, and today I'm here with photographer Thorsten von Overgaard. Thank you for joining me today.
Yeah, thank you. It's a pleasure to be with you again. We've done something like 10 months ago, I think, from Paris, but now it's from Florida. So.
All right, so the idea behind this is that you critique those photos as if they were your own, or as if they were from someone who takes your workshop or some of your clients. Mm-hmm. So to give me your opinion about the photographs I'm gonna show you. All right, so what do you think about the first one?
I was intrigued by what is it, and then slowly it occurs to me this is London because it's a red double-decker bus. Or well, that's funny how you say there's a red double-decker bus because it's not red in the photo, but that shows how you connect it with your own reality. Yeah, no, I like it. I like it as a atmosphere photo, and then I know that if I posted a photo like that or used a photo like that, some people will comment on the cigarettes. So that's interesting. That's actually a thing I have these days. I try not to be photographed or filmed with cigarettes because people start commenting on the smoking. Yeah, so it's just a thing I'm aware of. But I will still go with it, like the hat and the cigarette goes together. And I like that you have the background, the billboard or whatever it is not interfering. It's not a message. There's nothing other in the picture than just atmosphere, basically. There's no message on the billboard or something that get mixed up with. I mean, that's often what you see in photographs that people try to have more than one message or one story in it. And this one is pretty simple. It's just like it's atmosphere. It's a guy having a cigarette and he's wearing a hat and sunglasses. It kind of look cool, yeah. And then, of course, I kind of would see it in black and white, but then again, with the colors on the billboard behind, I think this probably works best in color, no matter what.
If you took this, would this be a keeper?
Yes, it would, but it wouldn't be like a star. I mean, so here's how it goes. You can say normally when I go out and photograph, I take whatever, let's say I take 100 or 300 photos, then I go home and edit. And the way I edit, and I stress that very much in my classes and in workflow, online workflow classes, is that the pictures come into the computer in the sequence you took them. So then I usually work backwards from the end of the day and I go just left arrow. And when I see something like, wow, this is something, then I give it 3 stars and I edit it in the color and then usually also the black and white, and it goes into the archive. And in that process, I don't actually think about much like, is this like an awesome photo or something? I'm just doing my job, just harvesting the photos that works from the day. And then you will see later. You will see people's reaction to a photo that think, wow, that's an awesome photo about something that you didn't think much of. And you have other photos where you're really proud that you got this because, you waited, or it was difficult, or it was great timing, or something like that, or you're waiting for somebody else to leave the scene, and nobody really cares about that photo. But it doesn't really matter. Everything goes into the archives. You could say, I don't really have a hit rate, but you could say if it's 10 or 20 or 30% of the photos that you took, that you edit, and they go into the archive. And then you could say later you take on a different hat as an editor, not editing the photos, but making a promo piece, an advertisement, or a magazine article, or a blog post, or a video, and then you need something to illustrate it. And you say all pictures contribute atmosphere, and especially you have series of pictures contribute a story where it doesn't rely that much on each photo to be great or something like that, but it just have to be part of a series of photos. So this one, this is one I would stop, give it 3 stars, edit it, and then I would put it in the archive. I would probably put it both black and white, and then I would see later when I need a photo that you can say this is kind of it is atmosphere, but it's also abstract, because the first moment you see it is like you don't know what is going on here. You see the cigarette, the hand with the cigarette, and the hat and the face, and the rest is just like something you have to figure out. So. And then you can say maybe one day you have to do an album for electronic music, jazzy electronic music, and it's like, wow, this is the cover, You want to do an article about London, this is not necessarily the photo, depending on what the story is with London. So that's how I view photos. It's like you can't really tell the moment you see a photo the first time or that you make a photo, is this like a fantastic photo, or is it ever going to be used? That's something depends on what you need a photo for later. That was a long answer to that, wasn't it?
No, That's great. And let's take a look at this picture.
Yeah. So this one is one I could. It's funny because because you mentioned the thing like look at it like it's your own photo, and I don't know if that's right, but now I do look at this one as my own photo, and I would probably turn it into black and white. And what I would like about it is the atmosphere of. I like this atmosphere of solitude that you sit and do something on a bench, like either you're writing some notes or reading a book or something, or you're just people watching, you know. So this one I would turn into black and white, and I'll maintain some of the gray tones, and then I would still maintain also that it have like a high contrast of black and white. And then I would see in black and white this garbage bin up on the left corner behind him, if that would be less prominent. It's not really a game changer. It's just like, okay, that will. When I took the photo, I would have moved. I'll probably go down a little bit on my knees to see a little bit more of his face, and then get rid of the garbage bin. And then I would use a lens like at 1.4, 50.95, so I'd blow out the background. So even if I went down, I would have more background, but the background would be blurred. Like he's the focus of like almost you get into his world. And I mean, it also works in color. If it was like for a color brochure about being a tourist in Paris or somewhere, then you could use this one, you know. Yeah, I mean, I like quiet little photos like this, and that's not meant as that it's like less important or anything. I really like this. I like photos where you look at them and you get into the atmosphere of it. And that's what you do with this one. That's what I like about it. I mean, it doesn't have to be smiling dogs and all of it. Most of my stuff is just like nothing really happens, but what happens when you look at them, and that's the effect I want.
All right, thank you. So now we have this photo.
Yeah, no. Well, I say no. That's like a Danish thing. We say no as a comma almost, so it doesn't mean no in no go. Yeah, I look at it as like a bit of a mess. Like I have to work on the colors to make it more colorful. So I have this warm colors of the red wall and the sunshine behind the silhouette work in one way that is warm colors, and then the reflection in the window have to be cold, and then see if I can make something out of that. Or else it has to go black and white. And then you can say no matter what I make it, if it's color black and white, the color. If I could lift the colors and make something out of it, then that could actually be an interesting thing. It has some interesting colors. But there's not really any message or anything going on in the story. It's not like, oh, I want to be in that place, or what a great atmosphere. It's almost like the person looks a little bit hopeless and alone over there, but then that's not really the point of the photo. So what is the point of the photo? So in that way, it's kind of like a message, a little bit confusing. Yeah, so this is probably one I would hope. Well, you could say if I took this photo in the street, I would do it because I had an idea. This is a great location. It could be interesting with the light and the shadow, and this corner of people walking, and maybe somebody comes with a bicycle, or two people come with hats and talking in a moment. And that's what I would. Then maybe I would stay there for 5-10 minutes and to see what can I capture. I have this stage of the corner, and I'll probably see it in black and white, and I'll see, okay, what can happen around this that kind of makes it into an interesting photo. And this silhouette is just kind of too small and not really important for it. And then what's left is just like, if there's no color that you can make something out of, then there's basically nothing left. And it's just like, I took a photo.
So the subject is not interesting enough.
No, but it's more like photos have to have a message. Like, what is the point of the photo? And the great thing about photography is that it's wordless. Like, you don't have to be able to, you're not obliged to explain why you took a photo. You're not obliged to explain what you get from a photo. It's just you can like a photo, and you can take a photo that even you can't explain it, but then people look at it and they love it for different reasons, and they get different things out of it. And some people don't, but it doesn't matter. You're just communicating with the people that like your stuff. So that is the message that there is. Like you say, the one we had before, the guy sitting on the bench. What is the message of this? Well, it's not a strong message. It's not a strong message about that it's great to be old or it's bad to be old or anything like that. The message is whatever the viewer gets out of it. You can say the man on the bench is just like, that's a pleasant atmosphere. I like this moment of just sitting on a bench and just taking a break, or think about something and come up with a story I'm going to write, or maybe he's writing a book or something, or he's thinking about, you almost feel like he has the experience of life, and he's somewhat happy with it. That's kind of like what I could put into it, and it's very unlikely that that guy who took the photo actually had that message. Maybe he took it for something different reason, but that's how it works for me, so that's the message. And this one, I don't know. I don't get anything pleasant from it that I want to look at it or put in an article or something. It's kind of like, It doesn't have something I can attach, except if I could work with the colors, and then I could say, wow, I can make a great color photo of it, or I can make it look like a Kodachrome moment, like it was taken in the 70s, and then that would make me feel something, But as it is here, no, it doesn't.
All right.
And then you can come with all kinds of reasons why it doesn't, but it's just, I think the short thing, like when you edit, you go through your stuff, it's like, it has to be fast. And just like you walk in the street, you feel there's a photo, you take it. It's not something you should overthink. And the same way you go through editing, you just said, no, it doesn't. Skip it. Or you say, no, I think this could be something for somewhere. Then you spend 2 minutes editing it and it goes into the archive, and then maybe it's going to be used later,
All right. Moving on.
Yeah, this, no. There's elements I like about this, the silhouette, and that you're close up and you have the reflections and so on. And then I don't get anything more from it. It seems like a fairy in some unimportant place, unimportant day. The dude doesn't know what he's doing, and he doesn't really care. So why should I, So, and I look for some clues in the reflection of the windows if there's something interesting going on there. Yeah, so this one I would just be like, no, not really. Then you could say sometimes pictures have subtitles. And if you take, for example, like you take WordPress photo, I don't generally like WordPress because it's so predictable. It's always a threat of loss and death and people being alone and left, and it's hopeless, And that is a style of niche photography. But what they do have is that they always have descriptions. News photos always have descriptions. They say this is taken in June 2021 on the border of this and that, just as somebody invaded the country or the harbor exploded. And then that puts it into a totally new perspective. So you could say there could be a story in this, but I don't see it from the picture,
All right.
And generally, I think a picture should communicate the story. I don't like that you have to put the significance into a photo by having a subtitle, something, but it should explain itself. But of course, sometimes you ask questions like, when was this taken and who is in the photo? And then there could be a subtitle just explaining that it is like Mrs. This and that in Sarajevo, and this the year, and then that would answer some of the questions. That it wouldn't really contribute a lot to photo, but it would just be something that's nice to know. Yeah.
All right.
Moving on. I get it. You have the rhythm here and the colors of the poles and the lady, and yeah, and it's so to me this is too obvious. This is like trying too hard to make a point of something that is not really a point worth making. I would say if I took the photo, I would even stop and take it and think it's a little bit ridiculous, but then you never know what happens. So I would take the photo, and in this photo I'll probably also edit it in colors, straighten the lines and everything, make sure that everything is fine, and go into the archive, see if I can use it for something one day. And one reason I would take the photo is, no, there is something, so that is totally right scene. There is something about this, and you could even wait and you could say, wow, it's great. I got a yellow person. It's perfect. It aligns. How great I am. And then, so what's the point? And but then there's again, like you could say, something else could happen. You could have, you never know. You can have a yellow person, red person, blue person, and green person just suddenly walk in there, and one of them have a dog on the shoulder. You just think this is crazy, but it did happen, and that is the things that happens. And that's why you see something and you feel like I should take the photo, and you should just right there. You just concentrate on taking the photo and not think, because you start thinking, no, this is ridiculous. This has been done before, or this is too this and that, or something like that. Then you spoil it. You have to follow your intuition, and your intuition tells you, no, there's something about those two colored things that is unusual. That's not something you see everywhere. And wow, there comes a woman in a matching color, and then wow, I got her just with the same distance, and the road is going up and so on. So it has to be taken, and then you can say it's going to be used for anything at some point. I don't know. It's like it could be a fun photo. It's kind of like a fun anecdote, It's not a photo that's going to change the world. Yeah.
Moving on.
Again, also a little bit like trying too hard. You could say if you removed the walking person and the person to the left, and you just had this guy sitting on the bench, it could actually be an interesting photo that would make you think about something, or you would think about if there's a significance with Jesus and the city behind and this guy, and it would make you feel something. here's a little bit, I don't know, it's funny what I get from it is kind of like it's a little bit hopeless, like the guy on the left looks a little bit hopeless, the guy walking, it's just kind of like there's no contact or anything. It's like, I don't know what I should get from this photo or what it should communicate that I would want to communicate. I get more a feeling of like that there's no contact with people and no hope, and it's kind of like, and then you get Jesus into it, then it's like, then you're like on shaky ground because like what, and then, I see it's a little bit like the same we had before. It's like, there's a rhythm to it. It's like, wow, I have those two people sitting there. That's kind of unusual, or it's like a special sight. Let me see what I can make of it. And then somebody comes walking by and thinking, okay, that's my cue. I'm going to take a photo. So in many ways, it's right to take the photo, and it's maybe right also to put in the archive and edit it and everything. But I don't know what I would use it for. Like,
all right.
It's pointless. But...
Let's take a look at this one.
It's Michael Jackson. No. I mean, it's a beautiful scene, and then you could say you would have either some local life walking over this bridge, or you would have some tourists doing something. And then what you have here is like a man holding what actually looks like his grandchild and not his own son over the water, which is kind of like, what is this about? It makes you want to jump up and stop him. Or no, again, I mean, we get back to message. What's the message of it? Like, okay, we have a pretty bridge here and reflections in the water. Not an amazing, pretty building in the back, but it's still like, especially if you had more sparkling light, you could make a really beautiful scene out of it. And then you have this disturbing thing of a tourist. That's what I presume it is, a tourist holding his child or grandchild over the water, which is a stupid thing to do in any case. And what is he trying to... It's just like, no, this is mixed messages. It's like, and you could say then it's also far away. So you could say if you should do anything, you should be close and see they're actually having fun. And then you don't actually need the background. You don't need the water. You just need, like, you could concentrate on the faces of a kid that thinks this is the most exciting thing that happened in his whole life.
And
it might be the last thing.
If you were at this spot and you saw this situation, would you take the photo, or would you just be like, okay, I'm too far? Or
I wouldn't even take it to show somebody see this idiot. No, I wouldn't. I don't do that. I don't report real life, like, look at this, or look at, wow, there was 5 police cars stopping one car here. It's like, who cares, moving on with like life. And I mean, everything, for me, everything has to be aesthetic, and it has to be hope, and it has to, without being directly stated, it has to give you that you want to take photos. I don't know why that is, that it's not something that's expressed in any of my photos or something, but it is like, it somehow they do have a message. See what you can do with a camera. This is fun. Go out with your camera. That's kind of like, and you said this one with the guy holding his grandchild is like, it doesn't communicate anything in that direction. So I mean, I get that some people will stop and take the photo, but it's kind of like seeing a poster on the wall that's a fun poster. So you take a photo of it, but it's not your poster. Who cares, So no.
All right.
No, yeah.
So let's take a look at this one.
Yeah, I like this one. I mean, it has the clean lines and everything, you could say, and it has the silhouette, and it have a story in the foreground and story in the background. I mean, and later you could decide, I'm going to crop it closer so he's more prominent. You could say typically when you have wide-angle photos, the problem with wide-angle is if you take a wide-angle photo, everything becomes tiny, small things, and that's why people have the idea you have to use them for landscape. But I think when you use a wide angle, you have a subject in the foreground, and then you have the whole background story. And then that's what you have here. You have the whole story that, like, we're at the waterfront or the harbor, and the city over on the other side, it looks like there's a mountain, a bridge or something over there also. And there's people out in the sunshine. And then you have the main story of this is the guy on the bicycle, which is kind of a bit like a show-off, but it's also like you will see on squares around the world you go that you'll have somebody that they perform on the bicycle. That's what he does, He could be even standing still for all I know, And then you have the ground with lines, which is great. It could be used for something, and of course it leads the eye. And then if you want to make the story stronger, then you crop in to 40% of it, so he's the center of attention, very dominant. And then you have the people in the background, and that would also work. So so it's a great photo. Can be used for something, and it doesn't have a self-explaining story. Like it will have you think that what is he doing on the bicycle? Is he performing or showing off, or what is it like? Is it a statue? Like, but it's just it works really well visually for the eye. That's you could say that's what it does, and it's nice to look at. It's not like I would say Mona Lisa, but Mona Lisa is not even that exciting. But it's just pleasant to look at, and it's like I like it have straight lines. It's had a lot of control, and it also have people. You could say you have a lot of control in the lines of the environment. That this is a waterfront, but then you have people hanging out and doing whatever they want to do. So that's like the contrast of it also. So yeah, it's that works.
Do you think there is too much space, like empty space?
No. It depends what you want to do. If you, I mean, I look at photos. I say this one. You imagine that's a double spread in a magazine, in-flight magazine. You sit in the airplane, you read this magazine, then comes a 2-page fold or spread with this photo. It fits exactly with the line between the pages in the middle. And he's over there, and then you put a headline or some text. Definitely, I would put text down below the bicycle or something like that, and then it works. It's great. And if you didn't have that space, then you can't do that. So I would maintain the space. Sometimes I will make alternative props in editing, and then I export a different version so I can see this could also be square. You could say this one you posted on Instagram as a story or whatever it's called. Then you just crop away, and you have a tall photo of just him on the bicycle. That could also be a good photo or fun, So there's many possibilities in it. It has a lot of control of the elements, and it's well made for what it is. It's totally well made. It's like you can't say that it's like he fucked up or he tilted the horizon or his wrong tones or something. Everything is perfect.
Moving on.
Okay, black and white. It could work in colors, but the colors are off here. I don't believe. I mean, it's not. The mountains doesn't look like that, and. Yes, you could turn this into different stories. You could say one thing, I'll probably go black and white, and I like that it's almost like timeless. You have this idea, you have this, I don't know why you have the idea, it's an old lady, and we are back in time on the bicycle, and it's kind of funny that she's going uphill. Then you could also tilt the photo, because if you look at the building behind her, that building is tilted, so you basically have to tilt the photo to get it straight, and that means she's going even more uphill, And if it's black and white, then you could make the sky would be more dramatic, and this parking sign to the right, the blue one, would disappear in the color. It attracts attention. And then it could be sort of a fun photo. It has some cool elements for black and white. You could say they have this tracks from the car to the right, and it has a sort of ribbon of the bikes and her, those 4 elements. And there's nothing disturbing in the background. There's the parking sign, but in black and white, that's going to be gone almost. And you could, of course, you could also crop it there, but then you lose one bike, But so it could just be a fun photo. And what would you use it for? Would you tell something like the struggle of living in the countryside, or people on bicycles are stronger than people on motorbikes because bicycles go off? I don't know. But it's just, but that's the thing. You edit and you see in black and white. Now it's like beautiful tones, and it somehow have a rhythm. It comes together, and you put it in the archive and you see what can I use it for one day. And it could, if you say you had like a story about going over the hills somewhere and see some small cities and have a coffee in a cafe on the top, then this could be one of the photos illustrating that story without actually. Ideally, I like photos shouldn't state something, and that's what I hate about. I hate it, but I don't like news photography because it's always like centered about, it's always like spelling out what you're supposed to think about when you see this photo and what you're supposed to get out of it. And it's not the truth, if they could have taken 20 other photos and they would show something different, So I like this, that it's like floating. The message of it can be anything you get out of it and the context you put into it, but it has elements that I would preserve. I would edit and preserve it in the archive. So this photo I would do. I'm sure I've done some of them, and then I wouldn't know what to use it for. It's almost like you walk by, you have to take it. I would change the angle. I would probably go a little bit to the left so I had more the phone in the foreground and then their faces behind, and they would blur the background. I would still try to maintain the statue and avoid all the people and this wooden box in the background and make it cleaner that way. And then it would be a photo of a statement of like people do selfies in this time and age, and they put on a face and sunglasses, and then they send it or post it to their friends to see, tell them this is how I live life, and then they go back to their sad life without sunglasses. And it's like, no, I don't know what to use it for, but I have taken them. I have taken of old people trying to figure out iPhones on the street to find the map, or people taking selfies, missing half the teeth, or whatever, It's like, it's just something like, this is a moment, but then what kind of moment is it like? And you could say, add 50 years to this photo, it's a completely different story. Then it suddenly becomes that time because it shows how you dressed and you had these phones back then, and this is what you thought was cool, People had their lips and nose made and their butt. And that was that time, and then in 50 years, it's going to be a different time. So it's kind of like if you went 50 years back, you would be like, no, there would be a photo of a guy walking up to a girl at a cafe table and giving her a flower and go down on his knees. And that would be like, that's how you did it 50 years ago. And this is how you do it now. So in that way, it's a recording of history. And then it's just a matter of like, you have to do it that is aesthetically, and say it have to be focused, and it have to be a composition that adds something. And then you could say the way either you move the camera or you crop the photo is to strengthen the message. So that means the people, especially the guy with the sunglasses on the right side, has to go. And basically the background over there has to go because it's disturbing. You look at them and then you look over there to see what's over there. So in that way, you can strengthen the message, whatever the message is or the story, by cropping away, or you move the camera over so you don't have they shadow for the background and you blur out the background. Then it's just about them. But of course, the buildings in the background and the statue add some element. Other people, other tourists doing the same could also be an element that would add something to it. But then you have to wait for it. But it have to be in the photo. But yeah, so that's kind of like what I have to say. It's like, it has to be taken, and we'll see what can I use it for. And for sure, it's going to be more valuable as time goes by. Yeah.
All right. Let's do the last one.
Oh, this one, that's mine. No, that one. So this one is what I did. I know I did take. Yeah, so if I look at it now I could turn around and say, what if it was not my photo? Then I would look at the plastic bag he's holding and be like, that's a little bit disturbing, but I would see there's a ribbon to it and there's pleasant colors and there's something about it. And then you could say I can pretend I don't know the story, and then I was like, what's the point of this? It's just like, yeah, that's a nice photo. What can it be used for? So that's interesting because I know the story, and I can see how knowing the story and telling the story becomes part of, you could say, making a photo iconic or make it what it is, So yeah, so this is a photo that I did take it, I did edit it, I have used it as a front page for a book. I've used it for different illustrations, and I know it has a good response. And then you could say, so it's from Turkey and from Istanbul, and it's from the end of a day on a workshop. It's like 3 o'clock in the afternoon, 4 o'clock, and it's getting hot, and we walked up the hills, and then sort of quiet streets, but not really that, I don't know. It's not like we were overwhelmed of things to photograph, but there was a nice atmosphere, and there was things that was interesting. And then suddenly comes this bakery that just have these colors, and it's beautiful. And then comes this boy on the bicycle, and I kind of knew, I have to have the boy on the bicycle, but he was going into the bakery, so I kind of missed that. But I thought, no, he's going to come out again. He's going into, either he works in there, he's never going to come out again till tomorrow, or he is picking up bread, so he's going to come out and leave on his bicycle. So I basically just lined up on the other side, like on this other side of the street where they like into 40 and a knock looks. And then I waited for him, and sure enough, he came out, and then I could take photos of him. I knew he had to be on the bicycle, so I actually don't think I took any photos before he was on the bicycle. And maybe I took 3, 5, or 6 photos of him leaving on the bicycle. And this is the one that have the right composition where he's over on that side of the picture and he's looking back. And I think I had to change the focus slightly as he moved because I work with narrow focus. So you could say, so that's a story that makes the photo and also makes it interesting. And you could say it's used also in articles or chapters in books explaining like, no, there's repeating action, but also the fact that, no, he walks in, so he's going to come out again. So you might miss him on the way in, but you're going to get him on the way out. Or you stay there and there's going to be another person coming in, a beautiful lady in a dress, or an old couple with hats, or another boy, or 2 twins. You never know, but here's a stage. The light here is beautiful. It even smells of bread, which you can't tell in the photo, but there's something to be made here. That's the sense. And the boy comes, and you're like, that's my cue. And then, okay, I'm going to wait for him. So if that hadn't worked, or it hadn't been that hot, I might have stayed for another 10, 15 minutes and see who else is coming in and out of this bakery, because there is something about it. Yeah, so that's very interesting. You can say, no, it's a photo. Yeah, let's just roll it back and say, okay, this is a photo. This stage I have to take a a photo here. There's something to be made here. So you wait for it and you hang around and you don't know what's going to happen. So you just, of course, your mind goes, you hope that this is going to happen or that's going to happen. And you hope the light stays like this and there's not a UPS truck parking in front of it and so on. But you kind of like is creating this photo, but you can't really control the elements. It's not like a painting. You can just paint what you want. You have to actually, something have to happen. So that you know. But what are you going to use it for and what you're going to get home with, or if it's ever going to work, or if it's going to be a masterpiece, you don't know. And here you say that is what happens. It's like, no, I'm like happy with what I got. I could have waited and maybe I would make a photo of my lifetime, but it's just, I decided that's it, you know. I spent 5 minutes here or whatever, 3 minutes, moving on. But this is what I got, and it goes into the archive. And then in the beginning, it's just part of a story with 50 other photos that this is Istanbul. And there's previous trips to Istanbul, so maybe there's 300 photos from Istanbul. And how important is this one? Nobody knows. And then you start getting responses, and people really like the colors of this, or then you have a story you can attach to it, and then you're like, oh, that's actually a cool photo for a book cover, where it's cropped, so it's just the boy and not this blue thing, trolley to the left. So that's also a photo in itself that he's just like the rhythm and balance of him. And then you will see, you know, then maybe somebody calls or emails and, hey, can I buy a print of this? Or we need it for in-flight magazine or whatever. And then it takes on a life of some sort of use. Or it could also be a photo, just like a pretty photo, but nobody really cares. And then it stays in the archive. So that's like, I mean, photos are what the viewer make of them. So that's the bottom line. And you can, and you are the maker and the viewer of your own photos. So for you to have significance, you know, that you know it's your uncle with his Volvo car in this photo, and it's very significant because he was very happy to get this Volvo. And either other people think it's a great photo and don't care about your uncle and his Volvo, that's fine. Then it's just for a limited audience of the family that they see the value of this photo. And in your other photos, and you could say you also have photos you take that you don't really see they're great, but everybody else seems to think they're awesome. And I mean, one of the photos that kind of keeps becoming or is iconic, and I mean, so one of the best-selling and most awarded photos I have is Shadowlands. And it's a photo that I literally don't think is that exciting. I mean, I get the point of it and so on, but it's not something that is even my style, you know. Yeah, and I think all photographers that have this problem, they make something that people really like, and that becomes what you're known for. You could say Henrik Ibsen has the jumping man. It's like, I think he hated that photo, but that's the one he's known for, you know. And it's just take it, you know, and then take the money and run to the bank or something, like, you know. Yeah, so that's a photo I see. It's like, yeah, that's great and so on, and it probably looks great on the wall, but it's not. I did it, you know. So, but else I would say that's not the photos I do, you know. But then as I move on, I have like different photos where I was just like, no, this is part of what I did, and maybe in the whole context it all makes sense and it's all my type of photos. But I have like certain photos that this is like what I did a lot of. This is what made me really happy. And I have other things where it's just like, that's like, yeah, that also happened, but maybe it wasn't what I was trying to do or something. Yeah, but again, you go back. I mean, you go out, you have a camera with you. When you feel there's a moment or something to take a photo of, you have to take the photo. When you edit, you have to make a quick decision. Is this something I'm going to put in the archive? Edit and put in the archive. I'm just going to leave it. I mean, you always leave it in the hard drive. You don't delete it, but then, I mean, you're never going to find it again. You know? So that's the decision. And then you see what happens to the photographs after that, you know. And one day you could say different situations. I mean, if you do an exhibition, it's one type of photography. It's different photographs than you would put in a magazine, because I have photos that works really well in magazines, but nobody would buy them and hang them on the wall. And then when you have to do an exhibition, you have to make a different collection of things that actually looks great on the wall, that works together in that gallery or whatever, and that people would actually buy and hang on their own wall. So that's a totally different type of photos. And then you have book illustrations, just like, yeah, but that's basically what you do. Like, you create moments that they could be of some value in some context. And you could say, I mean, maybe I make a T-shirt of this one and people go nuts. I'll sell 1 million T-shirts. Who knows? And it's just like, but there's something. Of course, there's something. And you say that's like, it's almost like you can narrow photo critique, because that's what we're doing here. You could narrow photo critique down to just the fact, yeah, there's something. If there's nothing, then there's nothing. But if there's something, and then sometimes it's obvious, or people flock around your computer to look at a photo because they think it's awesome. So then you know, wow, this is like a hit. I don't know why, but it is, you know. And of course, later you can analyze it, and then And I don't even think you have to try to recreate it like you see in music. People that try to make music, and also in the movies, they try to make movies based on previous hits. So they go like, oh, no, it has to have like this rhythm, or it has to have like this element or the click. But that's not how you make it. You make something unique. You just get the idea. You recognize, wow, this could be cool. I'm going to make it into a song, or I'm going to make it into a photo. And that's how you make something that's unique and becomes a hit. And then I don't think you can really copy it again. You can be yourself, and you can follow your intuition. That's how you do it. But you use the same element. I'm not going to go back and do a series of bakeries with kids on bicycles outside with plastic bags. I mean, all different bags and backpacks, or motorbikes. It's just, no, that's not the point of it. It's like, it's the totality of the colors and the atmosphere and something about this that makes it work. And of course, you also, even you don't see it, you sense it is like an old school bakery. It's not American mall, and it's not a Scandinavian something. It's like it's somewhere exotic, without even knowing it's Istanbul. It could be Jerusalem or something like that. And that's part of the atmosphere. Even it's not stated very clearly, that's part of what you get from it. You could see more of the bread that might add something else to the story.
Thank you. That was very thoughtful.
Yeah, that is very interesting to do.
You briefly talked about it, but you also do workshops and write books.
Yeah.
Can you maybe tell me more about that?
Well, I mean, you could go back to the beginning. You say not everybody, but it's everybody else. I felt photography is something I want to do, and then I got my first camera, and I was very much into the technical stuff, like with the lenses and the darkroom and film. That was back when I wrote my own film and built my own darkroom, and I even built my own camera. So I was very much into that. And then I was away from photography for some years because I was doing advertising on the internet. And then when I sold that, one of the things I wanted to do was I wanted to do interviews with entrepreneurs, like people who start businesses up. And I wanted to make photos that you could see the soul. And that's why I picked up photography again. I was very fascinated with Leica lenses and cameras. So that's what I used for it. And then I did go into working with magazines and some of the biggest newspapers and the biggest picture agencies in the world, Associated Press and Getty Images. And then I kind of, I would say, went sideways. I didn't went sideways, but I had people asking, can you help me pick a camera or learn me how to use my camera? Because apparently I seem to be very competent about these things. And that's what led into that I started doing workshops where I said, no, I'm going to teach people all the fundamentals of photography because I think photography is simple. So I'm going to do workshops where I explain this is aperture, this is shutter speed, this is how you get it right, and so on. And that led into that I travel the world and do workshops for usually like small groups of like 7, 8, maximum 12 people at a time. So we do like 3-day workshops. And it's actually not so much technical, it's more inspiration, it's more the lifestyle of always wearing a camera and walking around the city and take photographs. And then, of course, what to do with them after. You have to edit them, you have to finish them and make them ready in the archive to be used for something. And then, of course, I write books about that also. I do online classes. I don't do like live. I actually don't like that a lot. So I don't do a lot of live. I will have some people that they want to work on projects in person or on Skype or on phone, which is fine. But generally, it's recorded classes. Like I have one that's just like coming out now on street photography. So it's like an ebook and a video class. But it's not interactive where you sit and talk to me on video. It's like, no, you watch the video and then you read the book. And you can say generally like the thing I'm really proud of what I do in workshops and also what I do in books is that it inspires people to take photos, which is great because I don't think it shouldn't be about my photography or me or something. It should be about you. And how do you do that? And somehow I found a way. So you read 4 pages of my book and then you want to go photograph. And that's great. That's better than you sit home and read my book and don't take any photos. And the same with workshops. I have like, almost everybody that does my workshop, they just take a lot of more photos after and with more confidence and they use them for something like print them or give them away or post them. I taught a lot of people over the last 10 years, but it is impressive having actually 3 people who started their own galleries. That's crazy.
Oh, wow.
People start
All
galleries.
Right.
But so that shows a little bit of the extent of how people expect their photography into actually putting out there somewhere, they open a gallery.
So people can find that on your website or on your YouTube channel.
They can. Right. People usually go to my website and then they get lost for days or weeks because there's so many articles about Leica and live photography. And a lot of them end up with a Leica camera also. That's how it is. Yeah, and that's also what I see in the workshop, and you see elsewhere. It's like people can have weird reasons why they take photos or make photos, or they like them. And I mean, I'll have somebody that like the triangles, that they kept the two triangles or something looking like triangles in the photo. And I totally get it, like that's valid for them. And I think if I showed this photo to my mother, she would say that's nice colors. And that could be the reason somebody puts on the wall, they like the colors. Somebody else, it reminds them of their childhood. It's just like, it's individual, you know, and that's also the great thing you have. Yeah, I see in the workshop, you have 8 photographers that walk out, and we walk the same streets, and they take different photos. And even when we think we're taking the same scene or the same photo, it's different photos. So that's part of it, that everybody's individual. So it's individual people who take the photos, and there's also individual people who judge them and look at them or buy them or decide to use them for something. And that's the great thing about it. And I think that is part of what you have to respect. That is like, no, there is no rules or a guidebook for what is a great photo. And even sometimes you have in photo competitions, they try to implement with points and for this and that. I totally disagree with that. It's like, no, do you like the photo? And if you're judging the photo composition, you have to go with what you like and what you see in it. You can't go by what some university school book says is a great photo or not a great photo. Like, if you feel it's a great photo, it's a great photo. It's very simple. If it works for you, it works, you know. That's how simple taste works, you know.
Yeah.
That's how we buy shoes and eat food and everything, you know. So that's how it's done.
So thank you very much for joining me today.
Yeah, you're welcome, and I hope that I don't get too many enemies out of this.
No, I'm sure.
So,
all right.